Welcome back to the deep dive. You asked us to tackle a really big one this time, the future of learning. We're talking the next decade or so. Yeah, diving deep into innovative teaching, how the traditional classroom model is, well, frankly, being blown up, and the tech that's going to completely reshape education. So, our mission today, pretty straightforward. We're unpacking the huge transformations expected by, say, 2035. What does learning even look like when memorizing facts is pointless and, classrooms aren't just four walls anymore? Think virtual campuses, global collaboration.
Exactly. And it's not just a gradual change, it has to be radical because the world itself is changing incredibly fast, way faster than any old syllabus. And that speed is key. We're finally moving past, the old ways, standardized tests, sitting passively in lectures, towards learning experiences that are dynamic, really personalized, and crucially relevant now. Think about the potential here, those aha moments. Imagine, learning anatomy not from a textbook diagram, but by actually holding a virtual beating heart in your hands. Or maybe getting instant feedback from an AI tutor that literally adapts its style based on whether you seem, I don't know, frustrated or engaged. That's not science fiction. That's starting to happen.
Right. So today we'll start by digging into why the current model, the traditional one, just isn't cutting it anymore. What are
Yeah.
its limits? Then we'll explore how things are being redesigned, the new methods, the new structures, and finally we'll look at the technology that's really pushing all this forward, the engine behind the change. Okay, so let's set the scene. When we talk about a traditional classroom, like right now in 2025, what are we really describing?
Well, often it's still based on principles that are decades, maybe centuries old. And the biggest issue is the disconnect
Disconnect from.
from the real world, from what employers actually need, from the skills required to navigate modern life. The sources we looked at really hammer this home. They pinpoint basically three main failings. First, this heavy reliance on rote memorization.
Right, memorizing facts you can just look up instantly.
Exactly. It's almost worthless as a standalone skill now. Second, you've still got so much passive listening. Students just sitting there trying to absorb information from a lecture.
The sage on the stage model.
Precisely. And knowledge transfer just isn't effective that way. Not really. But maybe the biggest problem, the one that really hinders progress, is the one-size-fits-all approach. Expecting 30, 40, maybe hundreds of unique individuals, all with different backgrounds, different ways of learning, to learn the same thing at the same pace and show they've learned it in the exact same way, usually with a test. It's just fundamentally inefficient.
Yeah, it feels like we're measuring compliance more than actual understanding or ability, sticking to the schedule versus mastering the material.
You've hit the nail on the head. And the disconnect you mentioned earlier, it's huge. The job market today, and certainly the future one, needs critical thinkers, collaborators, problem solvers, people who can learn new things quickly, adapt, work across disciplines. But the traditional system often rewards remembering temporary facts and being good at taking tests. Those are very different skill sets.
So this frustration isn't just theoretical, it's driving real economic pressure for change.
Absolutely. The old system is just too slow, too clunky, too disconnected from the speed and demands of modern reality. It has to change.
Okay, so if the lecture hall model is on the way out, how is learning actually being redesigned? You mentioned personalization. Sounds like we're moving away from everyone learning in lockstep.
Totally. The future is adaptive. The biggest shift is towards what are called personalized learning pathways. And these aren't just, glorified online quizzes. We're talking AI-driven platforms. They don't just test what you know. They actively tailor the content, the speed you learn at, even the style of teaching to your specific needs, moment by moment. The AI can literally adjust the lesson while you're doing it based on how you're performing.
Wow. Okay, so if I'm struggling with something.
The AI picks up on that. Maybe it sees you're stuck on a math problem. It could instantly switch from, say, a text explanation to an interactive visual model or offer a simpler practice problem first. It finds the right approach for you in that moment to get you over the hurdle. The goal is less frustration, maximum efficiency. You learn faster and better.
That level of tailoring sounds powerful, maybe even a bit intense. How does this translate to the real world, especially for professionals who need to keep updating their skills constantly? People need things fast.
That's where the next big piece comes in, microlearning and skill stacking.
Right, bite-sized learning.
Exactly. Forget committing years to a single monolithic degree program necessarily. Learning becomes much more modular. Think intensely focused, short bursts of learning, often available on demand. You're not just collecting degrees, you're building a stack of specific, verifiable skills or competencies.
Okay, but how do you verify that stack? That seems like a potential weak link.
Hmm.
How does an employer know those micro-credentials mean anything?
Great question. Verification is key. It leans heavily on things like digital credentialing platforms, maybe even blockchain-based certificates. Imagine a secure digital wallet that holds an unchangeable record of every skill you've mastered, every micro-credential you've earned. So a company needing someone who's expert in, I don't know, quantum computing algorithms for finance doesn't just look at a college degree. They search for candidates with that specific verified micro-credential in their skill stack.
So it allows for much faster, more targeted hiring and lets people pivot careers more easily.
Precisely. It's about proving specific up-to-date capabilities quickly and reliably. Very flexible.
And if learning is becoming so individualized and digital, what happens to the classroom environment itself, the community aspect? Does it just disappear?
Not necessarily disappear, but it transforms. This leads to the idea of the global classroom.
Ah, using VR and AR.
Yes, exactly. Virtual and augmented reality become fundamental tools, not just cool gadgets. They allow for these incredibly immersive, collaborative learning experiences that completely ignore geography. You could have students in London, Lagos, and Lima all working together in a shared virtual lab, running an experiment,
Yeah.
or collaborating on designing a sustainable city in a shared realistic 3D space.
Making the whole world your campus, basically.
That's the idea, breaking down physical barriers entirely.
Okay, this is where I think it gets really exciting. Because it's not just how we learn, but the fundamental purpose changing. Moving from just absorbing information to actually doing things, solving real problems.
Yes, it's all about experiential learning. Learning by doing, but engineered for much deeper engagement. A key part of this is what's being called project-based learning reinvented.
So not just a final project at the end of a course.
No, no. The projects become the core of the learning process. Real-world challenges, complex problems that require pulling knowledge from different areas, that's how you learn. So instead of reading a chapter on, say, urban planning, you might be tasked with designing a public transport solution for a specific city, dealing with simulated budgets, geographical constraints, environmental impact.
That definitely sounds more engaging, but I have to ask, is there a risk kids might miss crucial foundational knowledge if everything is project-based? Like, how do you make sure they learn the basic physics needed for that transport project?
That's a really important point. And the answer, again, often lies with the AI. Think of it as AI scaffolding. The AI tutor or learning platform is constantly monitoring progress within the project. If it detects you need a specific concept, maybe a particular engineering principle or economic theory to move forward, it can instantly provide a targeted micro-lesson on just that concept, right when you need it. So you learn the theory because you need it to solve the problem you're working on.
Ah, okay. Just-in-time learning for foundational stuff. That makes sense. It connects the why directly to the what.
Exactly. And that boosts retention massively. Plus, we know motivation is huge. How do you make learning, especially subjects some find dry, genuinely captivating?
Gamification.
Gamification and edutainment, yes. But done well, it's much more than just adding points or badges. It's about using sophisticated game design principles. Think challenges, meaningful choices, narrative, progression systems, maybe even collaborative competitions, all built into the learning content itself. Imagine learning chemistry by running a virtual pharmaceutical lab, trying to discover a new drug compound before competitors. Or history by playing a deep simulation game where your decisions impact the outcome of, say, World War II.
Making the learning feel like an adventure or at least a compelling challenge.
Precisely. When the stakes feel real, even if they're virtual, the drive to learn the underlying principles becomes intrinsic.
Okay, shifting gears slightly towards the professional world. We're seeing a renewed interest in practical, hands-on experience. What about things like apprenticeships?
Absolutely. There's a major resurgence predicted, but it's apprenticeships and mentorship 2.0,
Meaning?
meaning it integrates modern technology deeply. Think apprenticeships that aren't limited by geography.
Mm.
A master craftsperson in Italy could mentor apprentices in Brazil and Canada simultaneously. They'd use tools like high-fidelity video conferencing, maybe AR overlays that guide the apprentice's hands while doing a technical task, shared digital workspaces, and AI-powered dashboards that track the apprentice's progress on specific skills.
So technology makes high-quality, hands-on mentorship scalable and accessible globally.
That's the core idea, blending the best of traditional hands-on learning with the reach and personalization of modern tech.
Right, none of this really happens at scale without the tech. Let's dive into the specific technologies making this 2035 vision possible. We have to start with AI, specifically AI tutors and learning companions.
Yeah, their role is evolving incredibly fast. It goes way beyond just grading or answering simple questions. These AI systems are becoming genuine personalized tutors. They provide really deep, nuanced feedback instantly. They can answer complex, context-specific questions. And, maybe most importantly, they can generate custom learning materials on the fly.
What do you mean by custom materials?
Okay, imagine you're reading a research paper and find it really dense. Your AI companion could instantly rewrite a section at a simpler reading level for you. Or it could generate a visual concept map of the key arguments. Or create a short practice quiz on just the parts you seem unsure about. Or even explain a complex idea using an analogy it knows relates to your hobbies or interests.
Wow. So it's filling any potential learning gap immediately in whatever way works best for you.
Exactly. Total personalization of the learning resource itself.
That really does break down barriers. And if the AI is handling so much of the content delivery and support, where does the learning actually happen? This brings us to the metaverse for education, right?
Yes, though metaverse is a broad term. But the core idea is using fully immersive virtual environments for learning. Think realistic virtual campuses, historical sites you can actually walk through, complex scientific labs.
So instead of reading about ancient Rome, you could virtually walk through the forum.
Precisely. Or conduct a dangerous chemistry experiment safely in a virtual lab. Or practice complex surgery on a virtual patient. The key is the immersion, the feeling of actually being there. Research suggests that when learning is tied to these rich, multi-sensory spatial experiences, retention goes way up compared to just reading text or watching a video.
It makes abstract concepts tangible, experiential.
Exactly. You're not just learning about something, you're experiencing it.
Okay, let's look really far ahead now. What's on the absolute cutting edge? You mentioned neuroadaptive learning earlier. What is that?
This is where things get really interesting, potentially transformative. It involves integrating cognitive science directly with the learning platforms, often using real-time biometric data.
Biometric data, like what?
Things like eye tracking to see where your attention is focused or wavering, maybe galvanic skin response to gauge stress or engagement levels, possibly even EEG readings to get a sense of cognitive load.
Okay. And what does the system do with that data?
It adapts
Yeah.
instantly.
Hmm.
So imagine the system detects, based on your biometrics, that you're getting bored or maybe overwhelmed by the difficulty. It can then automatically adjust the pace, maybe simplify the language, introduce a short interactive game element to re-engage you, or offer a quick break. The goal is to keep you in that optimal learning zone, challenged but not frustrated, focused but not overloaded. It's trying to optimize your cognitive state for learning in real time.
Wow. That sounds like learning almost perfectly tailored to your brain state at any given moment, minimizing friction.
That's the potential, yes.
Yeah.
Learning that constantly adapts not just to what you know, but how you're feeling and thinking right now.
Yeah.
Hashtag tag tag outro. So yeah, pulling all these threads together, the hyper-personalization, the focus on skills, the immersive experiences, the AI adaptation. What does it all actually mean for you, for the listener?
Well, it points to something pretty clear, doesn't it? This idea of lifelong learning as a superpower. It's not just a nice to have anymore.
Absolutely not. Continuous learning, continuous upskilling. It's becoming a basic requirement for navigating your career, for staying relevant in a world that changes this fast.
And these new models we've been talking about, they're designed for that, right? Not just for kids in school, but for supporting professionals throughout their entire careers, helping them reskill quickly, maybe every few years.
Definitely. So for you listening, the practical takeaway is probably to start shifting your mindset now, if you haven't already. Don't necessarily just wait for the next formal degree program. Start thinking about the specific skills that matter in your field. Try using some of the AI tools available now, even simple chatbots, as learning aids for complex topics. Look for courses or platforms that emphasize projects and demonstrated skills over just exams. And maybe even advocate, in your workplace or community for recognizing these kinds of micro-credentials and skills-based achievements.
Yeah, embrace the shift. And just as we wrap up, here's something to chew on, a final thought. If AI really can tailor learning so precisely to each individual, spotting weaknesses instantly, filling gaps, adjusting the difficulty so you're always challenged but never completely overwhelmed, does the whole concept of a failed student eventually just disappear? What does academic or professional success even mean when the system itself constantly molds to ensure you can learn, rather than forcing you into a mold you might not fit? Something to think about. We've definitely gone deep on the future of learning today. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.